I know you can go around there. There you go.
Wait, it's now on.
Oh, I got you. There you go.
We're live.
There we go.
Man, socialist.
I know, right?
So, invite Richard to just talk about
There we go.
Yeah.
how the campaign's going, what the organizers look like, and then next steps, especially what's happened with the recent debacle, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
So maybe we can talk, 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll questions, stuff like that.
Well, we started. Well, the actual Vote No campaign started in 2013. That's when it originally started. It started with it started with a group of people here, and then it spread across the country. I wasn't a part of that in 2013. I thought everybody that was involved with that were out of their mind, because there was no reason for me to believe that our leaders would just sell us out like that. I just couldn't believe it. You couldn't tell me and a group of people that I was with that back in 2013 that our leaders would just sell us out. I mean, they came to our halls. Oh, you're not going to pay $9.09. Our local officials signed off on that. So I believe that. Come to find out, the same thing that we're talking about today happened back in 2013 as well. They put a contract on us that the members didn't want. But the only thing differently this time was, in 2013, the master contract passed by a slim margin. So they was able to go ahead and implement it. In 2018, we voted the master contract down, but they still found a loophole in the Constitution to get it passed. And that loophole said that if you had less than 50% of the members voting, then you had to have 2/3 of the membership who did vote to vote the contract down. The numbers were 55% to about 45%. So we didn't meet the 2/3. So they said, you know what, we're going to give it to you anyway. Of course, that left a big hurt to a lot of the people that traveled around the country. A lot of people here came out to the gates with us. A lot of the Federation of Teachers came out, for the DSA came out, IIC came out a few times. I mean, you've seen what we was doing. A lot of people came out. A lot of people came out to support. They voted no. We voted no. And they still give it to us. And a lot of it had to do with our officials. Our officials and UPS put together a $1 million campaign to campaign against the members. They sent out propaganda, vote yes, vote yes, vote yes. Not only our officials, but the company. So a lot of people was like, hold on, if the company and the officials work together, there has to be something wrong with that. So they kept sending out propaganda. UPS would call our home, say, hey, look, this contract is good, you need to vote this. That never happened. In the 20 years I've ever been a union person, I've never had the company call my house and tell me, this contract is coming up, make sure you vote, this, that, and the other. So, I mean, we went everywhere. We started our own radio station here to try to get more people involved. It's WOM 92.9 South Philadelphia Community Radio. We trying to put the word out. People got to vote. People got to vote. Now, it is partly our fault we didn't vote. But still, that being said, and the members say no, I think you should honor the membership. That's just my opinion. I think these are the people that pay your salary. These are the people that build the union. I think you need to listen to them. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to abide by what the Constitution says. But I think when there's a conflict between the Constitution and the membership, you err on the side of the membership and then fix the Constitution later if it needs to be fixed, which it does. So moving forward, what we need to do is when these local elections come up and when the international election come up, I think we need to put people in place to make these changes. Because if we don't, it's going to be another situation like this over and over and over again. I get it. People don't vote. If you look at the nationwide elections, people don't vote. I get that. And it is a shame, but we just can't keep using that as a crutch for stuff to keep happening. Some people, it's just not happening. And then they made it so easy, Paul. Pick up the phone, say yes or no. That's all you had to do. They sent you a code, yes or no.
Oh, these weren't mail-in?
No, this was electronic. It was electronic. They made it super easy this time. Go on the computer, yes or no, yes or no. That's all you had to do. That's all you had to do. So on that part, I agree. You can't make it no easier. You didn't have to put a stamp on the ballot. You didn't have to give it to the mailman. In the comfort of your own home, yes or no, hang up the phone, and go about your daily activities. So I get that part. But again, if the members say no, I think you have an obligation to their voice. Especially like I said with the climate against locals and unions. All this right to work legislation. You know, everybody knows what happens. You know, right to work comes in with any legislation against unions. It's going to damage it. And then when you give right to work keys to the city like this, it's going to be bad. There's a lot of people that I work with say, hey, look, I voted no. I voted no last time. Why am I paying union dues? Why am I paying these guys? If I paid them to protect me, they should honor my voice, and they're not doing it. Number one, they're not fighting for me at the job, and they take my voice. So why am I paying them? Why? Then you got to try to explain to them, hey, look, your wage that you have, protection that you do have, the contract that you have. You got to try to let them know, hey, look, it's not, it's hard because they don't want to hear about my contract. They don't want to hear about my benefits. They don't want to hear about my wage. You just took my voice away from me. You just took it away. I don't care about my benefits because what's the use of my benefits if I don't have a voice to use them?
That's right.
It's just that simple. So it's hard. We got a lot of younger members who don't really want to get involved. And after this, it's really going to be hard to get them involved now. Organizing, if you want to try to Amazon a company if you want to try to organize somebody like Amazon, who just raised their wage up, and our contract was only going to be $13. Theirs was going to be $15. So how can I go to an Amazon worker? Hey, look, come work for a company who's you doing the same type of work, paying you $2 less, and we're going to take your voice away from you. It's going to be too hard. You just can't do it. So I think our officials did a great disservice, not just to today, but for the future of organizing, of getting more people to participate, getting more people to want to be in leadership positions. They really did a really bad job because it's not just about the contract today. It's about the contract for tomorrow, the kids that's coming up behind us, all these things. But they damaged that this time. And I don't know if they're going to be able to come back from this because yesterday we had a local union meeting. And our official, his whole thing is, people didn't vote. People didn't vote. Well, we did vote it down. And me and him got into a little bit of, not an argument, but, when at the union meeting, you can say what you need to say, and he'll give a rebuttal. Well, his rebuttal was, the Constitution says this is what we're going to do. But I have a problem with that if you want to be a leader, if I'm at the head table and my members say no, UPS comes out with a statement saying, okay, unfortunately, we understand that you guys voted the contract down. We're willing to go back to the table. Once that happens, I don't care what the Constitution says. We fight like no other to get the company to come back to the table. We did that. The members did that. The members voted the contract down. UPS conceded because they know we can't afford to go out on strike this time of year, Christmas time. They can't afford it. You have every advantage known to man right now. I don't care. We're not going back to the table, and this is what happens.
What were some of the main issues in the contract?
The number one issue from across the country was harassment. That was the number one issue. I know a lot of guys don't know. UPS, you see them drive, in the movies and stuff. Ooh, these guys they will harass you to death. What I mean by harassment is just not supervisor just wanting you to do the job. It's more like, okay, they violate you in a way where you feel like you have no voice. Like we have a lot of articles in our contract that protects us from the involvement of the supervisors working, for example. They're not allowed to touch our work. They do it every single day. So if you file a grievance for that, then they might say, well, since you're going to do that to this, we're going to move you to an area you never worked in before. We're going to put you in a tougher position. We're going to do everything we can to get you never to file another grievance again. And then you may get to the point where you get so aggravated and you might do something that'll cost you lose your job. Because a lot of people have done that. They got so aggravated with the company because they kept harassing, and then they do something and they get fired. We just had, a couple of weeks ago, we had 2 supervisors put their hands on our members. And the supervisor was still allowed to work in the building.
Shame.
Now, if I did that, it's all over for me. My career at UPS is over. The rules don't apply to them, only to us, and people have a problem with that. They talk to you any kind of way. Your check gets shorted. You want your money on time. Oh, we'll get it to you whenever, however. No, that's not how this works. And they have billions of dollars, but they use that, to get over it. And when you have weak language in the contract, coupled with weak leadership, the member is left vulnerable to all types of harassment. And that's what happens. Then you had this new classification of job called 22-4 job. This job was going to pay this position $6 less than a person doing the same job over the course of their career. So right now in this current contract, I think the driver gets paid $36, but they want to bring this guy in top rate at $30. But he's going to be doing the same job. And there's no protection to his job, so he could be out all night long. But the regular package car driver, he has protections. They're called 9-5 rights, which means if he feels like he's getting overused, too much overtime, then he can file a grievance for 9-5, and they will have to honor that and cut his overtime. But the new classification driver, who's doing the same work, doesn't have that. So he can be out there. And UPS is going to exploit that because they can keep this guy out, pay him a cheaper rate, doing the same labor. And there's no definition to his job. He can do anything, whatever. They do that to us, and I have a direct definition to my job. This highway driver, there's no definition. So they can have him do whatever. And that's a problem. You don't want to give the company more loopholes than you can. You know what I mean? So that's where we at. We're trying to get everybody focused. A lot of people feel like giving up. You can't give up. You got to keep fighting. You know what I mean? You got to keep fighting. So, and that's pretty much where we at right now with that.
I have one more. I know one of the leaders, they put out like a contradictory thing. So what they said it was ratified, and then didn't someone say, but we're also going back?
Right.
So
right. And
I guess at this point, is there like any chance in hell that they will actually go back to negotiations?
From the national side, no. They still have some local supplements that are going back to the table. But the ones that were in the same stipulation where you didn't have the 2/3, he pushed them through. It was a total of 10, but he pushed 4 through, and you got 6 left. So once all those 6 are done, then the contract will be officially ratified, and everybody will get their retro pay and everything from August 1st, 2018. But the thing is, we voted no, and the company conceded. And that's the part that I wish they could understand. I mean, I got into a little discussion yesterday on Facebook with a guy who's saying you can't promote going outside of the boundaries as far as the Constitution. Like I said, if the Constitution is in any conflict with what the members want, err to the side of the members and then fix the Constitution later. That's what I would do if I was in that position. Always go with the member. Always, no matter what. Always, because they're the ones working, they're the ones sweating, they're the ones getting harassed, they're the ones paying the dues every week. Always go with them, no matter what. No matter if you like them, no matter if you agree with them, always go with them. Because it's about them. It's about them.
We can open it up for, I mean, I have more questions, but I don't want to keep.
Okay.
I mean, just general questions.
Can you explain real briefly what the conflict with the Constitution is? Is it something about like how many people voted in the election? Like, what was the issue where they're like, oh, the Constitution says this?
Right. Well, in our Constitution, it says that if you have less than 50% of the bargaining unit that's affected by this contract, if 50% don't vote, then you have to have 2/3 of the people who do vote have to say no in order to turn the contract down. We had 44% vote, so we didn't meet the threshold. And we only had 55% of those, the 44% who did vote, they voted, 55% voted no. So we didn't have the 2/3. So they said, well, since this happened, we're not, we're going to go ahead and ratify the contract anyway. But right after that happened, UPS came out with a press statement that said, hey, look, we understand you guys with the contract down. We're willing to go back to the table and, fix whatever problems need to be fixed. Because you guys, everybody in this room know, that UPS cannot afford to go on lose any money right now during this time of the year. It's just not going to happen. We could have got anything we wanted, reasonably. You know what I mean? We're not trying to get rich. We just want fair. But our leaders, they just said no. And UPS put out another statement after Dennis Taylor, our chief negotiator, when after he said we're going to ratify anyway, they put out another statement saying, and I remember like it was yesterday because it haunts me. He said UPS understands the International Brotherhood of Teamsters decision to ratify the contract. We'll work with the leaders to ratify the important supplements, so on and so on. They were willing to go back to the table because they knew they could not afford us to go out on strike. Now, you have two locals in Chicago, 705 and 710, who are not a part of the national, so they have their own thing. Now, they can go out on strike. Chicago is a big area. I think they got about 8,000 workers up there. So, and they have the largest ground hub building up there. It's called CACH, CACH, Chicago something hub. It's big hub. So they have their own separate contract, so they can actually go out on strike. And they're in meetings today, so they may go out. I think he's trying to go out, if they do go out, on Black Friday. Nice. So they have the power because they have their own autonomy. You know what I mean? So they can do that. Because they were never a part. I think back in 76, we didn't have a national contract with UPS. It was just like different regionals. And then 79, they came out with the whole national thing. In 705 and 710 in Chicago, they never joined that. So they always been apart from the national. So which is good for them.
I guess it's a little bit more of a comment than a question, really. But it would just be, it seems like it just strikes me as so odd that with UPS then making the overture to open up negotiations again, technically, I guess the Constitution would say that it seems odd to me that they still couldn't take that vote as it was and say constitutionally, it seems like they could still acknowledge what the result was and then say, and additionally we'll also reopen negotiations. It doesn't seem like it has to shut it down, because we can, these are the vote tallies, but unless there's other language in the Constitution I wouldn't know about.
No, it doesn't.
They're still free to renegotiate.
There's nothing that says that they had to do this.
Right.
This was, to me, like I said, I could be wrong. This is just my opinion. I think they did this for personal reasons because they spent so much money sending all this yes propaganda. We almost beat that regime that's in office in the election in 2016. UPS spent a lot of money with the yes, and we beat all of that. The members beat all of that, and they just say, you know what? Since you guys want to be like this here, you're gonna take this contract. That's just my personal. I could be wrong, but there's nothing that I can find. If the company says we're going back to the table, to me it doesn't matter what the Constitution does. A company like UPS, oh my goodness. I mean, whenever you got a chance like this, man, you can show solidarity. You can show the whole labor movement that, hey, look, this is what happens when Teamsters or any union, when they vote, this is what happens. But they chose to go the other way. Now it's going to leave a trail of, that I feel is going to be damaging to the labor movement.
Any other questions? Or?
Do we have any more time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we got 5 or 10 minutes.
So, just to clarify first, this would have been a contract that covered national.
Yes.
So do you have any way of knowing where people voted the most?
Well, they put up on the website, they had, it's UPSteamsters.org. They put up local by local member participation across the country, and it showed different locals and how they voted. Like, for example, this local here, out of 3,400 members, 2,291 members didn't vote. So it was about a third of participation. And then you have some local, local 804 in New York City, they have about 7,000 members. You had about 3,500 members of their vote, and they really came out. I mean, their vote tally was like 3,500 no to 157 yes. You know,
Oh, wow.
different locals, you can tell who's in charge. If it's the membership or if it's like Hoffa type regime, locals leadership, you can tell the difference. You know, we're trying to do that here in Local 623, trying to get these guys out of office because until that happens, none of these things are going to change. You know, that's what we got to get in leadership.
What would you say are like next steps, and then like what are ways we can help?
Well,
as
the
DSA?
next steps would be number one is to get local leaders, the local leaders that participated in this, who didn't speak out against what the IBT did. You have to get those guys and gals out of office. You have to get those leaders out of office. That's just the bottom line. There's nothing that we can do until we get the leaders out and get new people have new vision and new ideas and all these types of things. Because right now, if not, this is going to keep happening. And then at the convention, where we make constitutional changes, we got to get enough delegates there to make these changes so this won't happen again. I was elected in 2016 at the previous Teamsters convention, and in that convention there was only 3 members here, voting members that were able to go and vote for the changes, and we were surrounded by opposition. You know, even in our joint council here, the joint council 53, it was only 3 out of about 60 people that were, you know, for the change. And of course, when we went up there to try to make the changes, Hoffa, you know, they booed us and we're not going to make those changes. Boo, you know, and that's not how it's supposed to be. You know what I mean? But that's what we need to do: get rid of the local leaders that are in bed with the IBT regime, Hoffa, and the company. Because even though, and I gotta say this, even though I understand what our officials are doing, the number one issue is corporate greed. You know, but we just gotta have the right people to fight it. You gotta have the right people to fight it. You know, I'm furious with our officials, but I also know that it's the companies like UPS and Amazon and all these guys like that who are the ultimate enemies. You know what I mean? So we gotta just get the right people to fight them. You know, so those are the next steps. Delegate election, get the right people there to get the changes needed. Local elections that are coming up the next few years. You know, we have one here, 623 next year. We plan on running and definitely got to get these guys out of office, because if not, it's going to be the same thing over and over and over. Because attitude reflects leadership. Stagnant leadership, stagnant members. You know, they're not going to do anything. If you don't create activity, they're not going to create activity. So that's what we've been trying to do. And whatever way you guys can help, especially here, you know, whatever help you need from us. At 623, you know, because we got a group called 623 Lives Matter. We put that. We try to bridge the older members and the newer members to come together, because it's not like it was when I first started. It had a lot of older members. Now it's pretty much half and half. You got a lot of younger members and you got a lot of older members. So we're trying to bridge that gap. Say, hey, look, you know, you may be from this era and I may be from this era, but the goal is still the same. The goal is still the same. So we're trying to get that together. You know what I mean? So. That's the next step. Get all these guys out of office. Make the changes necessary so we can fight the company correctly.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned the old versus old and young. What are some particular difficulties you have in like the what are some differences between the old and young crowd?
For an example, at our union meeting yesterday, those guys that we have in office, they've been in office for almost about 20 years. So you have a lot of guys that grew up with them, been there through all kinds, all kinds of them, right. But then you have the, how you doing out there? All right. So then you have the younger generation who just coming in, who don't really know what the union is about, don't really know what's happening. So and it's a struggle, it's a power struggle, and you see it in the vote counts. Like for example, here in 623, the national, we voted it down by 115 votes. But the local supplement, it passed by only 8 votes. It's because they had this provision in there that said if we didn't vote yes the first time, that the company was going to make us pay part of our pension contribution out of our ratings. Right. And our officials presented that with us, but no, they didn't. Check this out. I don't know the energy company you guys use, but I always use this as an illustration. Whenever you use your energy, they send you a bill. Say, Mr. Hooker, you owe such and such amount. but then it shows you on the graph how much you owe. But when he presented this to us, it just said, if you don't do it, you're going to pay this much money. This is how much money you're going to lose. But they didn't tell us why the pension was short. They didn't tell us what investments, why the pension was the way it was. It just said, if you don't do it, this is what's going to happen. And a lot of people panicked.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's because the old guard, they don't want to fight.
Yeah.
I don't want you to mess with my pension. I don't want you. Well, guess what's going to happen next time? UPS is going to say, hey, look, if you don't vote like I told you to, we're going to take this away from you. And we're going to take this away from you. And it's going to keep going. And it's going to keep going. The older guys are going to be gone. It's going to be up to the younger guys who are going to have to deal with that. I got to deal with it next time when you say, well, if you don't vote yes the first time, we're going to take this. Who knows what they're going to take? It's just like they don't want to fight. I don't know if they got too complacent, to get ready to retire. But man, I never seen it like this. I get it. No one wants to lose any money. But if I pay you to fight for me, then you need to say, look, I don't care what you say. We're going to fight this. We're going to fight it. Because a lot of people didn't remember. They forgot this part. 7 out of the last 10 years, we didn't get a full raise. It was split. So now all of a sudden, now you care I don't get it? Those are things that I brought up, but the older guys don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. But hold on, you didn't get your full raise 7 out of the last 10 years. There was nothing that said you're gonna lose all this money. So you can't have it both ways. But that's what we're fighting. We're fighting. It seemed like it's an uphill battle, but I think we're gonna win. I think we've done a lot of work since about 2014. We've been out at the gates. We've been trying to do whatever we can. We came close in 2016 to get the guys in office out. We were 37 votes short, and it was 3 slates that ran. You had a lot of in 2016. It was a busy year for politics in general. You had the presidential election, then you had the Teamsters election, you had our election, the delegate election. A lot of stuff was going on, so people was probably like burnt out. Man, I don't feel like voting. It could have been a myriad of reasons. But 37 votes, we were right there. It was the first time doing something that major. And I think this time, we laid a lot of groundwork. We've done a lot of things. And a lot of those people that wouldn't even talk to us in 2016 because they were so pro the guys in office, their old guard. A lot of those guys see what we was talking about. I got a lot of messages that I never got before from those guys. I had to look at my phone the other day, like, oh, is this guy calling me? What's happening? And I was shocked because I'm talking about our prominent supporter of these guys in office. So when he reached out to me, man, I was like, oh, we're knocking it down. I wish it would have happened sooner, but like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day. These guys been in office in 20 years, and we're trying to do something. So it's going to take time. And I think this time, next year, I think we'll get them. And it's nothing personal, because I still love those guys. So like I said, I used to support them. It's not like, even now, if one of those guys say, look, Hook, I need you to go do something to help the union, I would do it, no questions asked. But I just don't like, from a leadership standpoint, what they have done to this union. They didn't even get up and fight for us to go to make those constitutional changes in 2016. They sat down. It was myself and a couple others that stood up and said, hey, look, we can't have this keep happening to us. And the guys in the office did everything they could to try to stop us from doing that. I mean, that's a story for another day, but those guys just have to get out of office. It's just the bottom line.
Definitely let us know, like, anything we can do to help. This is like big for our city. And we have, different unions representing.
Right, and I think that's what it's going to take. I think it's going to take all unions to come together, because all of this affects all of us. You know what I mean? Because if they do this to us, they could go to the IIC union, to the teachers union, to all these. They could do that, and that's why I think this was a big opportunity for us to be in the forefront as Teamsters. Hey, look, we beat UPS, and our members benefited from it. And I think that could have been a message throughout the whole labor community.
The tricky part is a lot of us have union leadership that's like.
We're fighting the same. We're fighting the same.
But I mean, it's up to us to sort of.
I think we work together, man. We could do it. I think we can. I think we will. I really do believe it in my heart. I think if we all work together and exchange ideas, how this worked for you, how this worked for me, and we can see a dynamic change with some, you know, because we need people with vision. You just can't be, I'm just gonna go and fight the company. No, you gotta be, you know, strategic in that, because everybody got more sophisticated and this, that, and the other. So you have to change with the times. You know, bring the foundation of how it started, but you can't do the same things that you normally do if you want the change that you're trying to get. You know what I mean?
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate
come
it.
back anytime.
Yeah, but hey, whenever y'all, you know, you invite me, you know, we'll come out, you know, because like I said, next year is a big year for our local. It's 100 years we've been in existence, and we want the next 100 years to be better than the last 20 years. So, oh yeah. And I thank y'all for having us out here. I appreciate that.
Hey, you're definitely welcome to stay the rest of the meeting.
Oh yeah, because I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear everything. Yeah, I want to hear about. I want to know. So that's how you gain wisdom and knowledge. I know what's going on. Oh yeah, I do. I really do.
All right. Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.